I saw Wicked live on stage only once. It wasn't in New York or anything, but it was a really good production and it was great for live theater in general. Watching people perform in real time, relying on their own in the moment skill, timing, creativity, and occasional wire work was truly spectacular. Which is why I get extremely nervous whenever any movie house decides to throw its hat into the musical ring, adaptation or otherwise. There's just something so often lost in the translation from stage to screen. Sure, most are still entertaining since it's typically some of the best musicals that are given the silver screen treatment in the first place. So unless you royally screw up, the audience is still going to have at least an okay time. But for me, I can never really get into them. Even if the music is banging, I kind of just check my watch whenever a song comes on. I say this so that you know how impressed I was by this film. Wicked, for those who have been living under a rock for the past 20 years, is an adaptation of the famous Broadway musical of the same name, telling a prequel of sorts to the famous Wizard of Oz, focusing on the Wicked Witch of the West. To ensure you don't have the same reaction as some people in my theater did when the movie ended, know that this only covers about half of that story, as part 2 of Wicked is slated for some time in the near future. The story begins as she, properly named Elphaba, here played by the wonderful Cynthia Erivo, is paired in her college dorm with Galinda, played by Ariana Grande, who, like the rest of the school, looks down upon Elphaba due to her unnaturally green complexion. What follows is a story much larger than that, though, set against the backdrop of the land of Oz that I won't spoil, but just know the story doesn't end in the classroom. But man, does it even nail that part. This film hinges upon the remarkable duo that is Cynthia and Ariana, two presences who demand your attention when they are on screen. Their relationship and how it unfolds is the driver and the highlight of this whole story, and they nailed it. The emotional scenes that need to hit are perfectly performed and executed, but they get all other aspects of this right too, that being the occasional humor and whatever other conflicts that pop up between the characters. The rest of the cast here does a bang-up job as well, but the other star I want to talk about here is actually the world of Oz itself. Right from the get-go, you are pulled into Oz so effortlessly, and watching it unfold only gets more and more interesting as the movie goes on. There's a real sense of place here, as if the movie approached creating the land of Oz like that of building a popular fantasy world, rather than one meant to serve as the backdrop to the music just to be thrown away. That is in thanks to no small part a strong, welcome reliance on practical effects. Yes, okay, this movie isn't all that practical, clearly. I mean, just look at the trailers, but it absolutely has it when it counts. For example, pretty much all of the musical scenes take place on a set, like a real physical set, one that feels like it was made with love and care and detail. There are a couple scenes in particular where the filmmakers almost seemed eager to show you that, hey, what you're looking at is being done for real, which immediately solves the problem I mentioned at the top of this review of feeling like the performance was translated wrong between stage to screen. These effects and execution and world building pull you in, so that I'm along for the ride whenever someone breaks into song and dance, or a character tries to get me to empathize with them. It never really feels like this movie is taking the easy route and getting its musical sequences right, and the story beats across to you. As a result, I was so happy and willing to hop on the journey that this movie was taking me on. Speaking of musical sequences, how are they, since they are, maybe 60% of this film? Well, they're great. The music is catchy, and you will sing some of its more popular songs in your head, like randomly at 2 in the morning for the next 10 years. There's a reason this musical has been as popular as it is for so long. Each scene with music, however, is given its own defining characteristics, something to remember it by. Even now, long after seeing the film, I can picture each sequence in my head as if each song was given their own personality traits. Galinda's number is overtly pink and stylish and over the top, as it should be to match her character. Jonathan Bailey's Fiyero basically parkours around a moving library, causing such a fun disruption that you can't help but want to go watch it again. And again, all of these feel like real performances on a real high-budget stage, made with real care, as if the creators went out of their way to ensure no matter what was going on in that moment, musical scene or otherwise, you are being wowed. The only real knock I have against this film is that, like the play it's based on, the main motivations of its so-called antagonists are never really clear or spelled out for you. This sort of movie doesn't necessarily need that, as its main focus is the relationship between Elphaba and Galinda. But the way the conflict is introduced to you, the lack of motive really sticks out like a sore thumb. So that when our protagonists take action to get through the central conflict of this film, a part of it just kind of feels silly and pointless. In the end though, Wicked Part 1 was fantastic. The music is predictably great, but it feels like the filmmakers and actors gave the whole world, the whole concept of Wicked, its due. The setting of Oz is brought to life similar to some of the best silver screen fantasy worlds out there. The musical numbers feel like they were made to entertain you, to wow you, to draw you in as if you were on stage with these super talented performers. You can't help but smile. But most importantly, the film still respects your interest by pulling back the music sometimes and letting the relationship between the perfectly portrayed Elphaba and Galinda be the focal point and its main strength. I'm going to give Wicked Part 1 a go see it in theaters, and I cannot wait to get through this really long intermission to go see Part 2. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought down below of the movie Wicked, and for more movie reviews over a cup of coffee, like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.